Hi, today's tutorial is on the select tools. They're found up here in the toolbar. We have the Marquee selection tool, we have the magic wand, we have the lasso tool, and we're going to go through those each one by one. Right now the Marquee tool is selected, and down here in the options bar you can see we have the rectangular marquee or we have the elliptical marquee. Let's start with the rectangular marquee. When we start to drag, click and drag in our canvas here, you'll see the dotted line going around it. Those are lots of times called the marching ants. If you let go of the mouse, now what's inside this area is selected. What's outside this area is not selected. So if I want to get the paintbrush, for example, and paint in there, you can see that it only paints inside the area that's selected. Now, if I want to let's go back to the marquee tool. If I want to draw a perfect square, I can hold down the shift key and it will draw a perfect square. If I want to draw a square from the center out, I can hold down the option or the alt key and draw from the center out. And if I want both a perfect square and from the center out, I can hold down both the shift and the option or the alt on the PC and draw, and it's a perfect square. The same thing happens with the elliptical. Shift will keep it a perfect circle. Alt or option will draw the circle from the center out. Shift and alt and option will draw it from the center out and keep it a perfect circle. Let's fill this marquee, this selection that we have right now, with this blue color. And the good way to do that I found is to just hold down the shift and hit the delete on a Mac or the backspace on a PC, and it pulls up this fill layer dialog box. We can just say foreground color, choose foreground color, and choose OK, and it fills it up. Now if we want to add to this selection, you have these little icons down here. This is add to the selection. This one is subtract from the selection, and this one is intersect with the selection. Let's draw another marquee down here just to show you. I don't use those icons down there. I use the keyboard shortcuts, which is shift. Shift adds to the selection. You can see how I'm adding to the selection as I hold down the shift and drag. Or option will subtract from the selection. You can see the little subtract sign down there on the bottom right of the crosshairs, and that subtracts. And if I want to do the intersection, I can hold down the shift and the option, and if I drag right here, it's just going to get this little part where they intersect. You can see that. So you can add to with the shift, take away with the option or the alt, and if you use both, it gets the intersect. Let me draw a circle now. Let me show you one thing here. If I draw a circle and I fill this with the blue color, foreground color. Okay, let's deselect it. Let's zoom in. You can see how the edge is nice and smooth. That's because this anti-aliasing is on. If you unclick the anti-aliasing, let's draw just a little circle here, and we'll fill it with the blue. Foreground color, and come on, foreground color, and deselect that. You can see how jagged it is. So when you're doing anything with curved lines or something, you want to have this anti-aliasing checked. You can see that it doesn't really affect the square. In fact, when you're on when you're on the rectangular marquee, it's not even an option. But when you're on the elliptical, you want to have that checked all the time. Otherwise, you'll get really jagged selections. Feather is another thing to do. We can add a little bit of feathering. Now watch what feathering does. If I make a circle and I fill that, oh, my goodness, I need to make it bigger. I have too much feathering. If I make it bigger, fill that with the foreground color. See that? How it fades out so much? That's because I have a big feather, which is why no pixels were selected that first time, because it was too small of a circle. It didn't even select anything because of the feather. Anyway, so if you get that, know that you're too far on the feather. I wouldn't go, well, it depends on what you want to do. So if you keep it down a little bit, then you're fine. Anyway, that's feathering. Would make another one with a little less feather. Foreground color. That's not quite as bad. So that's feathering. This is the aspect. You got normal, which is just regular, whatever you draw. You have fixed ratio, which is 1:1. That's a way, or 1:2. You can set whatever you want in there. 1:1 will do the perfect square or a perfect circle. Or you can do a fixed size where you can actually type in whatever size you want in pixels. So that's basically the Marquee tools. Let's go to this. Let's go to the Lasso tools. Lasso tools, you have 3 tools. You have the regular lasso, the magnetic lasso, and the polygonal lasso. And you have these same icons here, and the same keyboard shortcuts work, and the anti-aliasing works, and everything's the same as with the Marquee tools, the feather, everything else. But this tool is the Lasso tool, and if you just start drawing, you can just draw freehand whatever you want, and there's your selection. Let's fill it with a different color. We'll fill it with, let's go to color, and that brings up the color picker. We'll fill it with this green color. Okay, it's filled with that green color. Now, if you start to draw and you let go of your mouse button, it'll automatically take a straight line straight to your starting point. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This is the magnetic lasso tool. It has some different things here. This is the width and the contrast and the frequency. The width, what it does is it sees the edge. You can see it's got a little magnet there. Let's blow this up a little bit, enlarge it. Command or Control and the plus sign will zoom in a little bit. Let's just take a look here what this does. If you click and just start dragging, see the little squares, the little nodes that it's putting on there? And then we can just go back to the beginning, and as you get to the beginning, see the little circle down there in the lower right corner of the icon? Click on that, and that closes up your selection. See how it followed that edge right around? If you hold down if you put down the cap locks, then you can see the size of your magnetic brush. And you can change that on the fly if you want by using the bracket keys. The left bracket key and the right bracket key will make it bigger or smaller. Low intolerance. Select. Yeah, well, that's what that does. Deselect that. This is the magic wand. This is the quick select tool. The quick select tool, if you just kind of brush over the area that you want to select, look at that, it automatically selected all of that thing. I only drew up to here, but it also selected her hand. So hold down the Option or the Alt and deselect her hand. And now this is the only thing that's selected. A little bit right there. This is the only thing that's selected. Now you can, well, we got a little bit right there too. Let's just clean that up. Okay. Now, for example, if we come up here and we make an adjustment layer, use saturation, you can change the color of that because we made that selection. You can make it any color you want. So that's the quick selection tool. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that adjustment layer. Okay. These other tools are about the same. This is the auto select. Just click on that. If you make a little, if you want to select her face, you just draw a little marquee around it and it'll automatically try and select her face. Got a little bit of her hand too. Same with the brush. That's much like the quick selection tool. This is the selection brush tool, and it's about the same. And this is the refined selection brush tool, which we'll look at that in just a minute a little bit more. I want to show you this select subject uses the new Adobe Sensei artificial intelligence, and I've had mixed results with it, but now let me show you what it does. Kind of, if you click on select subject, it automatically selects the subject that it thinks is the subject of the picture. Now you can see that it's selected all the way up around this girl, and it selected this part of the chairs. Let's just with the quick select tool, shift, let's just select the rest of that chair that she's sitting on. Okay, now with that, you can see it got a little bit of her hair, but it doesn't have all this hair out here. Let's hit Refine Edge. This opens up this Refine Edge. Like I said, I've had mixed results with this, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work very well. But let me just show you a little bit of what it does. With this brush right here, this is the Refine Radius tool. I usually have this Smart Radius checked, but you can change that if you want. We'll play with that a little bit too. I have it on white. You can have it on different things. You can have it on the red, you can have it on black. You can have marching ants, but that's a little bit difficult to see. I like to have it on white because I can kind of see what I'm doing as I paint. I can see the hairs in there as I paint out here, and it will try and get some of those hairs. What I'm doing is telling it, hey, look out here and let's see if you can see anything that should be in that selection that you made earlier. This might take a little bit of time because it uses a lot of resources on your Mac or your PC, on your computer. You can see that it's collecting some of the hairs out there. We're also getting some stuff we don't want. And this is going to be a mask that will mask out the background. The background's still there. It's going to end up being a mask. And layer masks are going to be another tutorial too. Okay. You can spend as much time as you want on making these masks. Sometimes some of these sliders will help it a little bit. That's just making it darker in there. You can change the radius just a little bit. Smooth, you don't want to use smooth on something like the hair, because you'll see if I move that up, it just blurs it all out. So you don't really want to use that. You can use smooth a little bit if you have have good edges. Same with feather, that does the same thing. Shift edge, you probably don't want to do that on the hair either. What that does is just shifts everything in just a little bit or out just a little bit. I'll just keep that on 0 for hair. 0 is the best, I think. You don't want to do that. Decontaminate colors if you have some kind of a color showing through, like for example if you have leaves or grass in the background, so you have a little bit of color tone on her hair or on her clothes or something, you can hit decontaminate colors and that should take that away. And I just leave that checked all the time. And click the new layer with a layer mask. Click on that and say OK. And it'll add a new layer up here with the layer mask. Now you can see you can turn that mask on and off by hitting the shift key. You can see the picture is still there. You can see it there on the thumbnail too. But you can see how it's masked out that girl. If we make a new layer, bring it down below, fill it with the color. We'll fill it with We'll fill it with that green that we had before. That's fine. You can see how it's still got her hair. Like I said, this isn't perfect, but it's a good starting point. If I tried to select all that hair by hand, it'd be very, very difficult. So that is the selection tools. Play around with them, get used to them, use those keyboard shortcuts. They'll speed up your workflow and help you out a lot, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.